JC had 12 disciples. 11 of them were black Israelites, and one of them was a black Canaanite named Simon, and he told them all, don't go to Gentiles. Well, obviously, Simon wasn't a Gentile. He wouldn't have told them not to go to Gentiles. And in the book of the New Testament, the only one they call Gentiles were the Ethiopians. The Ethiopian that helped JC, he was never called or pertained to as a Gentile. The Ethiopians were not Gentiles. The Canaanites was not called Gentiles. The Ethiopians are not called Gentiles. The Egyptians are not called Gentiles. The Assyrians were not called Gentiles. Only ones called, the Moabites were not called Gentiles. But this man gonna tell you you're a Gentile. And he got a degree. And then many of my people criticize how bad we whoop them up when we get a chance. But I have to admit, in my old age, I've learned how to be more compassionate. I try to just attack the issue and not the person. I try to always not deal with the individuals. Only like to attack issues. Then the people don't have no reason to run away and say you're criticizing them. So don't get upset in arguments. Always attack issues. That's right. And if they happen to be the author of the issue, then they got to fall with it. But deal with the issue, not the individual, not the personality. Right. Keep reading.
They all looked to their own way.
They all looked at their own way.
Everyone for his gain.
Everyone, that's reading now. Met a minister today. 2 of them was in a church and had 3 preachers, and 2 of them left and started their own church. Because now they need a salary. They need to have their own. So what they did is split the church up. And that happens all the time. Split, and split. Because as soon as they think they know a little something, they're going to find something wrong with the preacher or something wrong with the doctrine, some reason that, well, we believe that what Paul said to the Corinthians. Well, we believe what he said to the Ephesians. Well, we believe what he said to the Romans, and now they all split. We believe you must be baptized in the name of JC. Well, we believe you got to be baptized in the name of Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Who's right? All of them right, because everything they said is in there. That's reading all these divisions, all these conglomerations of various types of religions come right out the New Testament. And the Christians always say, well, God is not the author of confusion. Well, that means he's not the author of the New Testament, because all the confusion we know is brought forth out of the New Testament. Look at the various churches: the Baptist, Methodist, Unitarian, Episcopalian, Seventh-day Adventist, Jehovah's Witness, Mormons, Crackers, and all the rest of them come right out of that. You understand? With no exception. They all got their common ground out of that. So if he's not the author of the of confusion, then certainly he couldn't be the author of the New Testament, because that's where all the confusion is. Yes, I see same people with 5 or 6 different doctrines. I've never found an Israelite congregation around the country that believes Sunday is the day of worship, or you should worship on Friday. All Israelites believe that go by the Old Testament. All Israelites believe you should keep the Sabbath day, period, and that's the 7th day of the week. Whether you're white, black, conservative, Orthodox, Reform, the original article as we are, they all know that there's only one Sabbath day. They all know that there is only one Elohim. They all know that you have to follow the laws. The only time I find Israelites in confusion is that when they grab hold to the New Testament. Now you got some of them that call themselves Messianic Jews. We didn't have no Messianic Jews in the Old Testament that's following him. If you didn't have a New Testament, you wouldn't have no Israelites today in America talking about following JC, because they can't read the word of the Most High and come to that conclusion. Exactly. The Creator says in the book of Isaiah, the 8th chapter, said in the book of Isaiah, the 8th chapter, notice what the Most High says about holiness and apostolic faith and believing what Paul says and embracing what Muhammad said and embracing any other spirituality or ideology at all. He said in Isaiah 8:20,
to the law
and
to the testimony,
and to the testimonies of the prophets,
if they speak not according to this word,
if they speak not according to this word,
it is because there is no light in them.
It is because there is no light in them. And if there's no light in them, that would mean that they're walking in darkness. And who would follow a man that's walking in a total state of darkness other than a complete fool? There's no light in them. In other words, as he said, there's no understanding in them. No wonder the Creator said they do not understand. They all look to their own way from his own quarters and say, come, let us fetch wine and eat drink, and tomorrow shall be as the day. So the Most High is not the author of confusion. But did you know that all this confusion that the Christian church have, if they were not ignorant, they would know that according to the New Testament itself, the New Testament, that's reading the minister asked me, is it all right if we debate? Because I'm coming out the New Testament. He said, good. He said, you believe the New Testament? I said, just say we don't have the same understanding of it. Because the understanding that I have by the New Testament, I don't think you believe in it. Because if you really knew the New Testament, you wouldn't be teaching what you're teaching today. Because he teaches that you should worship Christ. When the New Testament, from the words of the one that's supposed to be the supreme being of the New Testament, J.C. himself said, worship only the Father. Now that's what he taught, worship the Father. But they don't want to hear that. J.C. and Paul taught that J.C. is not the Most High. Let me just show you a couple of scriptures. Let's go to let's go to 1 Corinthians. Eleventh chapter. What does it say? 1 Corinthians 11 chapter, the 3rd verse. And this is Paul talking.
1 Corinthians 11 chapter, verse 3. But I would have you know.
I would have you to know, said Paul,
that the head of every man is Christ.
He said the head of every man is Messiah.
And the head of the woman is the man.
And the head of the woman supposed to be the man.
And the head of Christ is God.
And the head of Christ is God. Now how can J.C., now a man have to be totally ignorant to read this, and after he read it, come and conclude that they're the same, when it says that the head of Christ is God. Now, how can he be the Most High and he not be the head? God don't have no head. Yahweh don't have no head over him. So how can he be the Most High and be the head and not be the head? And it said the head of J.C. is who?
Is God.
It's God. Now, that's what this book says. Then we go to the book of 1 Corinthians 8 chapter. Let's just peep in the 8th chapter. And Paul makes a strong indictment against those that profess to be followers of Christ. He says in the 4th.
1 Corinthians 8 and 4.
I'm going to start at the 2nd verse. And if any man think that he knoweth anything, If you think you know anything, he knoweth nothing, yet as he ought to know. He don't know. In other words, if you think he know anything, he don't know nothing, yet as he ought to know. But if any man love Elohim, the same is known of him. Now, as concerning of eating of those things that are offered in sacrifices unto idols, we know that an idol is anything. If you have a rock and you pray to it and worship, that rock is your idol. That's your God. An idol can be anything. Anything at all. We know that an idol can be anything, and we know that an idol is nothing in the world, and that there is none other God but one. How many? One. We know that there is no other God but one. For though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or earth, there's many gods and many lords, but to us there is but one God, and that's the Father. Now, JC is not the Father. Never called himself to be the Father. And in order to be a father, you got to have seed. You have to have offsprings. He's not a father. All he said is, I'm the Son of Man. He didn't say, I'm the father of anybody. Never pertained to himself as father. He said, but though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or earth, and there be many gods and many lords, but to us, in other words, to the early Christians, there is but one Elohim, the Father, of whom are all things, and we in him, and one Lord. Now, Lord, he said,